tonight, WWE presents another episode of Monday Night Raw from Tropicana Field inside the WWE ThunderDome as we are on the road to WrestleMania. And of course, as we're coming out of last night's Elimination Chamber event, which we saw, you can see on the screen right there, a brand new WWE Champion in The Miz. After Drew McIntyre defending his WWE Championship inside the Elimination Chamber, he was viciously attacked by the former United States Champion Bobby Lashley from the Hurt Business, which then allowed The Miz to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase and become the WWE Champion for the second time in his career, 10 years after he was last the WWE Champion. So as of right now, at the time of recording, it's nearly 9 p.m. over here in the United Kingdom, so around 4 p.m. Eastern Time over there in the United States. There have been no real announcements as to what's going to happen tonight on Monday Night Raw. Now, this isn't anything new because so often nowadays when it comes especially to Monday Night Raw, we don't have a whole lot that's advertised ahead of time, and that's not because WWE is keeping us guessing or anything like that. Most of the time that's because WWE hasn't even finished the show yet, or what was planned is being changed and planned for another direction, another angle, whatever. So we don't really have any update at the moment as to what is going to happen for Monday Night Raw tonight. I don't have a match we can talk about, I don't have anything we can talk about in terms of that, but what we can talk about in this preview video is we can talk about what potentially could happen tonight on Monday Night Raw, because I think it's going to be a really significant episode of Raw in that we've seen what's happened today in terms of coming out in the news about the WrestleMania plans for the WWE Championship. Now, we did a video talking about this earlier today, but I will touch on it again here. Basically, Twitter wrestling account WrestleVotes, who are very reputable, insider information, lots of spoilers, scoops, insider news about WWE. They are very, very reputable. They have a very good track record for breaking several stories ahead of time. They posted this tweet earlier today which said that according to a source that they had spoken to, that The Miz was not planned to be in the WWE Championship match of WrestleMania. That is of today. Now, of course, it's WrestleMania season and certain things are locked in when it comes to WrestleMania, one being Edge versus Roman Reigns, but there certainly is a lot of misinformation and things that might not come to pass, so it doesn't mean it's completely accurate, but I tend to lean on the side of believing WrestleVotes here, and that is that The Miz will not be in the WWE Championship match come WrestleMania in April, but the other man on the screen right there, Bobby Lashley, will be in that WWE Championship match, so it would lend one to think that possibly what we're going to see at WrestleMania on either April 10th or April 11th, we're going to see possibly Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, with Bobby Lashley being the WWE Champion. Now, I know I've seen some other people say what we could see is Bobby Lashley as WWE Champion defending against Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre. That certainly would be a great match. I myself said possibly we could see Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg at WrestleMania. Those are certainly options we could see in the future, but how does that tie into Raw tonight? Well, because we know that Miz probably isn't going to be WWE Champion come WrestleMania, that means he's got to lose it between now and WrestleMania, and there aren't many opportunities to do so. Now, obviously, they could decide to have Miz lose the WWE Championship at Fastlane, which of course is next month in March, or they could do something very special and newsworthy tonight on Monday Night Raw, which could be the case of having The Miz drop the WWE Championship tonight on Monday Night Raw. Now, this wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. WWE has done this several times throughout its history. They did it a couple times in the Attitude Era. I think arguably one of the most famous times was 1998, where Stone Cold Steve Austin lost the WWE Championship to Kane at the 1998 King of the Ring pay-per-view in that First Blood match. And the following night on Monday Night Raw, what happened? Steve Austin defeated Kane and won the WWE Championship back. They did it in 1999, didn't they? Whereby Mankind won the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. The following night on Monday Night Raw, what happened? He dropped it to Triple H. So there certainly isn't out of the realm of possibility that you could have someone win the title one night and then the following night they lose it. Why? Because it gets people interested in the show. It's certainly got people talking about tonight's episode of Raw more so than usual. Having a WWE Championship match main event, having a title change, it gets a lot of buzz and people talking on the road to WrestleMania. And I have no doubt in my mind at this point that Miz is most likely going to be a transitional champion. And there's no disrespect to The Miz. I mean, I mentioned it last night and I mentioned it earlier today when we spoke about it here on the channel that I'm not big for saying anyone deserves anything. I think it's so cliche and overdone in pro wrestling. The "you deserve it" chants, all that kind of stuff. It really does grind my gears. It's not for me. But if there's anyone that deserves another WWE Championship reign, it's The Miz, for all of the work, not just that he's done over the last 12 months or 3 years or whatever, just the fact of his whole career. This is a guy that's been in WWE for almost 15 years, or over 15 years, I think, at this point. And he had one WWE Championship reign back in 2010. That sort of bled over into 2011, main event at WrestleMania. And the fact that over the last 10 years he hasn't got that opportunity to become WWE Champion again. I know he's had a couple of world title matches here and there, but never really got into the conversation of being WWE Champion again. The fact that he's finally got that opportunity again, even if it's for 24 hours, I think it's fantastic. And when it comes to Drew McIntyre, I think it makes total sense for him to drop the title right now. Not in the sense that I think Drew McIntyre is going to go out of the title picture, because I really don't think that's going to be the case. I think Drew McIntyre will be competing for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. But you look at it historically, the top babyface in the company, which Drew McIntyre is right now, because the other guy on SmackDown, Roman Reigns, he's a heel. He's the top heel in the company right now. So de facto, the top babyface in the company is Drew McIntyre. Historically, it makes sense for the top babyface to be chasing the WWE or World Championship come WrestleMania season. They did it with John Cena and Steve Austin all the time. John Cena, WrestleMania 25, loses the championship, No Way Out. What does he do? The following, a couple months later, WrestleMania, he wins the World Heavyweight Championship against Edge and The Big Show. The next year, same thing. Elimination Chamber, what happens? John Cena wins the Elimination Chamber match. Batista comes out that night, wins the WWE title. The following month at WrestleMania, John Cena at WrestleMania wins the WWE Championship. Steve Austin, he was chasing the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 14, 15, and 17, and he won it on all 3 occasions there. Why? Because it makes a lot of sense. That's how Vince McMahon likes to book WrestleManias. He likes to have the closing image of the biggest show of the year being the biggest babyface winning a world championship. Now, I think night 2 of WrestleMania this year could possibly close with Edge winning the Universal Championship, but that means that night 1 of WrestleMania could and probably will close with Drew McIntyre reclaiming the WWE Championship, having his big WrestleMania title victory moment actually in front of fans, which of course didn't happen last year because of the pandemic. So all of it, I think makes total sense to me, and I find it slightly baffling how some people on social media after last night's show can just really criticize this, say it's a terrible move, Miz is terrible, how could they take the title off Drew McIntyre? I know maybe it's a case of for myself and for certain other wrestling fans that we've seen it before. I mentioned this on the watch along last night. Eventually a lot of storylines repeat themselves, and as I mentioned, if you look through the history books, Cena, Steve Austin, even they've done it with Roman Reigns as well. It always makes sense for the top babyface to be chasing the World Championship when it comes into WrestleMania season, and I think it's no different for Drew McIntyre, and I think that's going to be the case as we head into WrestleMania. So I guess it leads to the question, as I mentioned, when does The Miz drop the WWE Championship? Because another reason why The Miz isn't going to be WWE Champion come WrestleMania is because he's going to be facing Bad Bunny. It's been reported heavily, and I think it's true considering that Bad Bunny slapped The Miz last night at Elimination Chamber, that it's going to be The Miz and John Morrison facing Bad Bunny and Damian Priest at WrestleMania. I still think that's the case. So again, between now and WrestleMania, Miz has to drop the WWE Championship, which leads me to think that it's going to happen either tonight or it's going to happen at Fastlane. Now, again, as I mentioned, WWE have done it a ton of times 24 hours after the fact throughout their history, but also the last time the WWE Championship changed hands prior to Elimination Chamber last night was on Monday Night Raw when Drew McIntyre won the WWE Championship from Randy Orton just prior to Survivor Series in November. So once again, WWE isn't afraid at all to pull a last-minute WWE Championship change or a surprise WWE Championship change on Monday Night Raw. Frankly, the ratings need it. Frankly, they need it for the buzz. So I certainly could see a scenario whereby The Miz tonight drops the WWE Championship to Bobby Lashley. I think what we're going towards is Bobby Lashley becoming the WWE Champion for the first time in his career, which is, again, talk about people deserving things. Bobby Lashley absolutely deserves it. The way that WWE have booked Bobby Lashley in recent months, ever since he challenged Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship last year at Backlash, has been phenomenal. And This is a guy, it really is now or never, really, for Bobby Lashley. He's 44 years of age, still in unbelievable shape. Arguably is better in the ring right now than he's ever been. Arguably is more dominant and a more rounded character in terms of pro wrestling than he's ever been. It's now or never. And I know people might say, well, we had Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre at Backlash last year. Is that really a WrestleMania level main event? I did ponder that earlier today in the other video that we made, and I think that's justified. And I could see a Brock Lesnar or Goldberg being added to it. But on the flip side of things, I'm always saying that WWE need to give their full-time talent a chance. They need to put their full-time talent that is going to be there on the following episode of Raw, and the Raw after that, and the Raw after that, and the Raw after that, in those main event positions for WrestleMania. Putting Bobby Lashley in there with Drew McIntyre would just do that. It would be putting two full-time guys competing for the WWE Championship in one of the main events of WrestleMania. And I know people will say, oh, you're elevating a 44-year-old Bobby Lashley, but, I mean, look at him. He could be around forever. I mean, the guy never ages, and again, he's better than he's ever been at this point. So, if they have it tonight, and I could see this being a situation whereby the opening segment for Monday Night Raw is just this. The Miz comes out, he's talking about becoming WWE Champion. He's then interrupted by MVP, who says, look, we agreed a deal. We help you, you help us. Tonight on Monday Night Raw in the main event, because we helped you win that WWE Championship, it's going to be Bobby Lashley versus The Miz for that title. Or they, of course, agreed to have it at Fastlane. Possibly Drew McIntyre faces Sheamus at Fastlane to blow off their feud. And then we have Lashley versus McIntyre, possibly versus someone else for WrestleMania in April. I think that's the direction that they're going to go in. Again, got no issues whatsoever about The Miz being the WWE Champion. If anything, I think it's a great move. And those criticising it for it not being believable, or what has The Miz done? Look, I get it. I've seen the record on social media. It's been posted quite widely at this point that over the last 12 months alone, The Miz has won, I think, 1 or 2 matches. One of those matches was defeating Otis for the Money in the Bank briefcase, those being singles matches. They won a couple of tag team matches, of course, but over the past 12 months, The Miz has won 1 or 2 singles matches, one being for the Money in the Bank briefcase, the other being for the WWE Championship itself. Not bad, but it does go back to what some people are criticising this, saying, what has he done over the course of the last 12 months for him to be a believable WWE Champion? Look, he has credibility. That's why he won the Money in the Bank briefcase in the first place. I said this before. The reason I felt why The Miz had become Mr. Money in the Bank is because they could do anything they wanted there. They could have The Miz cash in and lose. It doesn't matter because he's The Miz. He's bulletproof. He's been there for 15 years. Him cashing in and losing doesn't devastate him. He's The Miz. It doesn't matter. He's still going to be there next week. He's still the same person he was the week before. It doesn't damage his credibility. On the flip side of things, he can carry the briefcase, and if he does cash in, which he did, and become the WWE Champion, once again, he's been in that position before. He was the WWE Champion 10 years ago. He's carried the ball. He's proven that he can carry the ball. It was a safe option after a bad choice in Otis, and I think WWE are making the most out of that. They're making things seem a bit interesting, a little bit unique, and they're trying to keep people guessing on the road to WrestleMania. And once again, that's not a bad thing. Some of the best WrestleManias, when you think about WrestleMania 17, 19, even 18 in 2002, things weren't decided until right before WrestleMania. You had title changes. I think back to The Rock versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17. Remember, going into that WrestleMania, initially Kurt Angle was the WWE Champion. The Rock beat him at No Way Out. So you do have these title changes in and around WrestleMania. That does happen. And once again, it leads to a great WrestleMania. It keeps people guessing. It's not predictable. And last night certainly wasn't predictable. And I think it's unique. So once again, I really don't have a problem with that, and I'm excited to see what happens on Monday Night Raw tonight. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on The Miz becoming WWE Champion at Elimination Chamber last night, and his plans for Raw tonight on the USA Network? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. It really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.